I will see your
That's where
posts
we're at.
sometimes. You know, I follow you, and I seriously don't think I follow 200 people because I just don't give a shit what other people are doing.
You know this better than me because you've actually been around longer than me, but I've been around long enough. Is at the beginning, I don't think anyone ever expected to just do this full time, and they've lost a lot of what they originally got them here.
You're between two dumbbells. I'm your host, Skip Hill, and I'm bringing over 40 years of bodybuilding experience to the table, including over 24 years of online coaching. I'm joined today, as usual, by my co-host, Dr. Marv, aka the educated meathead. I almost said edumacated. How good is that? But today, it's not just two dumbbells. We have a third dumbbell. Austin Stout is joining us. We want to talk about training, obviously. We want to talk about gut stuff. We want to talk about why I look pregnant after I eat even a small meal at 55 years old. We'll dig into that in just a minute. For each show, we posit a thought about a training exercise or training methodology, and then we deep dive into the minutia, but not today. Still going to deep dive into the minutia, but we're just going to we're going to be all over the place. We're going to go here. Then all of a sudden, without any warning, Skip's going to go here and there, and it still should be fun. And if not fun, entertaining, informative, you know, that sort of thing. Use the TrueNutrition.com link in the closing credits to save 10% on not just Team Skip protein, but every supplement they sell. Not only do I use my Team Skip protein with my clients, I'm so tired of saying this, but other top prep guys have their clients use my protein because it's that good. I'm going to rewrite that. I mean, I'm going to leave it in. I'm not going to edit it out. This is just a free-for-all today. That's one take, Dr. Marv. Are you impressed?
Man, I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket now because that is the first time ever. So,
all right, let me get this out
of
the way.
The longest standing discount code on True Nutrition?
Well, I tell you, it is kind of...
It's got to be up there, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It might be 2004, 5. I don't even know. But yeah, it's definitely... It might pay for a show or two, you know.
Yeah.
Pay the editing guy. Anyway, Austin, happy that you were able to join us. Obviously, this is the second time. The listeners don't know this.
Yeah.
First time, I just couldn't get my audio to work. So it is what it is. I appreciate you rescheduling. I want to kind of dive into the training first. And what I really want to know, or I think what the viewers want to know, I'm kind of representative of the viewers and the listeners when people come on, because they're typically, and Dr. Marv too, you guys are the smart ones. And I'm just sitting here going, I just want to learn. What would I want to know if I were the listener or the viewer? So I kind of represent them. So typically what I think is what they're thinking. I want to know, as far as training, and this has been a question that's been on my mind. You know how you do what you do for a long time. You have the answers. You're confident in your ability. But the longer you do it, the more questions you have. It's like the most confident people or the most confident trainers are the ones who haven't been doing it very long, right? This is the answer. I've got you. And I probably did the same thing.
Dunning-Kruger, right?
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. And I'll tell you why I don't like to say that out of the gates, because I think a lot of people hear that term and they really don't know what it is. So I typically explain it first, but that's exactly what it is. And the longer you do something, then you start to question yourself. You're like, gosh, I don't know. And this is a question that's been on my brain. And I want to relate it to your leg training, to be more specific. Because your legs, I mean, let's be fair. I'm sure that you know, and I don't want to take anything away from your upper body. Don't get me wrong. You're probably like, I'm tired of hearing about my legs. I want someone to say my arms are growing like my legs. But you have taken mediocre genetics. I mean, right? We can say, I looked at when you started. It was similar to my thing. It's like, you're not going to jump on stage the first time and have everybody go, holy crap, he's going to dominate the bodybuilding world. So you built off of that, and you've come a long way, and you're still continuing to make, I mean, I see it, and I've seen a lot of shit in my 41 years. And I'm like, man, this guy continues to make these obvious strides with his training and his progress. So my question is this, and what's kind of stumbling or rolling around in my head. The last couple of years, I have really started to question, and bear with me on this because I want to dig into a little bit, but am I training too hard? Basically, and that's relative. So someone may see me train and go, oh yeah, he trains hard, but that's not, over the top. But it's related or relative to my recovery ability, because we can always train harder, but can we recover from that and actually grow and progress? So I've been asking that question because I was looking at this seems like a weird example, but my lying leg curl strength. The last couple of years, I've just looked and I've gone, this is 9-year-old shit. Like I'm doing leg curls, but to failure at 10, 11 reps, and then I try to take the weight up. I'm like, this is just ridiculous. I can clearly move more weight than this, but it's not moving. Since the show, and I understand there are myriad of variables. We're coming off a show. I'm increasing my calories, things like that. But I have purposely held back because I thought, you know what, let's just test this out. Let's kind of pull back from the failure training. I hate to use the word RIR. But that's really what it's falling into, that category. So I start to do that, and I'm just doing sets of 10 for like, I'm stopping at 10. I'll increase it a little bit. I'll stop at 10. Like, wow, I'm actually keeping a contraction here. I'm not hitting this, excuse me, this level of fatigue that I would before, where I'd be wasted after 2 or 3 sets. And then all of a sudden, week after week, I'm to the point now where 10, 12 weeks later, I'm like, I'm moving leg curl numbers that I haven't moved in 15 years. So this is where, and it's a long explanation, but I wanted to set it up. I'm not only seeing that with the lying leg curl, but that's the one that stands out the most because it's always been so bad. Everything else is progressing great too. I feel great. HRV is great. My sleep, score is great. And I know that's very, very minutia-esque. Sometimes the minutia matters, sometimes it doesn't. But when you see everything kind of come together and you're like, God, there's something to this. Maybe this next generation's a little smarter than we're giving them credit for. Or arguably, their lack of work ethic happens to work. Maybe not lack of work ethic.
Coincidentally.
Yeah. And I don't want to make it sound like no one's working. Don't get me wrong. But there's a difference in that old head methodology or work ethic where I'm just going to drive myself into the ground. I'm going to go until I puke. I'm going to go until I pass out. And clearly, let's be fair. We put our man card aside for a second. Training hard is one thing, but training to the point where you're not able to function and you're vomiting probably isn't going to be the best one. So that huge, long setup, I just want to hand it over to you. Am I crazy? Is it just train hard, focus on the recovery, but train hard? Or is there something to what I'm saying?
I think I'm fortunate enough to have snuck in right at the end of the old head era. I got
right there. You're on the fence,
right?
Yeah,
I got to see the forums, and I've got to see, I've done DC training like in its purest forms.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it all, right? But what I've noticed is that, to your point, what we always used to think is that recovery was like a food equation. Well, if you eat enough, yada yada. Mm-hmm. Most people, you eat sufficient protein, which hell, even that we found over the years, maybe we don't need quite as much as we thought. So there's that, right? But they thought, well, if you eat sufficient protein, you'll recover. And we come to learn, like, this is more of a nervous system issue, right? Like, this is more of an immune system, nervous system issue. Like, why are we feeling the way that we feel? Why are we like, to your point, why are we feeling like I can't train this muscle again in 7 days? Now, Is that really conducive to progress? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. You can do that. That's fine. You can actually go in, you could train, you could do a squat movement, and you could do 1 or 2 work sets to failure, but you're not going to be able to do much else, mm-hmm. right? Like the rest of the session performance is going to decline. So I think all that we really have learned is that there's probably a middle ground where too much fatigue cuts into the amount of work that we can do. And we have to figure out like where that balance is for us, because we know we need enough fatigue and enough adaptation to grow. And we know we need to progressively overload. But at the same time, if we can only, and I'm with you there, if it were effective to just go in and like absolutely die, carry me out on a stretcher shit, one set, if that were like the most effective way to train, sign me up.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Bring
Absolutely.
a shovel, bury me out back when we're done. I don't
Right.
give a shit.
Well, and I
But-
think the old heads do lean towards that side. It's almost, I know I've
Right.
caught myself doing it, going, I would rather still err
Yeah.
on the side of more work and come out psychologically happy
Yeah.
and in a good place versus, I don't know if I train hard. Gosh, am I going to grow? It's just crazy. And then we gauge those gains in the progress literally by the week instead of giving it time, being patient. I mean, I laugh and say this is the most impatient industry any of us could ever be. When in doubt, do more. Let's just do more, and everything needs to happen tomorrow.
Yeah. Ironically, something you need to be very patient about, right?
Yeah.
But what I'll say is that I don't think, having worked with enough people, like I don't think my recovery ability is anything special. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's great. I also work a lot more and have a lot more emotional and psychological demand now, which kind of cuts into the stress part.
Sure.
Like when you're 20 years old or 25 and like you just have a part-time job and you live in an apartment with 6 other people, you know?
Yeah, you should
doesn't
be
really-
good at this sport.
Yeah, like there's not really a whole lot cutting into your recovery demand. But having come from that ultra intense training, what I kind of find is that when you get up to those last few reps where the tempo is starting to slow down, you're starting to shake, you know, you're starting to lose form because your mechanics are adjusting, right? Unconsciously. Right. The stronger muscles are kind of kicking in and moving your hips around, moving your shoulders around. Those are the reps that probably, while you can do them, they have probably the least amount of ROI for fatigue versus you know, hypertrophy. So for me, it's been, I can go right up to that edge where I'm locked in on the muscle. And by the way, I'll say people that aren't experienced don't understand this, but when you're not experienced, you don't feel every rep of a set. You're 10 reps in before you start feeling it. When you you get that neural connection, every rep is a banger, right? Like you can feel 1, 2, 3 and every part of it. But I found for me, if I go right up to the point where I can't possibly, I'm going to lose like rep speed dramatically, and I can't possibly do it unless I like kind of fucking do something funky to get the rep up. That's where I need to stop in the set. It's still very intense, right? It's maybe 1 RIR technically. Like I could do another one, maybe, probably.
Right.
But I just find that last rep, that last like 1 or 2 reps, and that's where I've had to get out of my head and had to reduce the amount of intensity techniques and stuff I've added in, especially when I'm getting up into big, heavy multi-joint movements. If you're talking biceps, maybe delts, like stuff that doesn't require a ton of fatigue, you can do that stuff, right? And we found better ways to do it. We've also found you don't have to just do drop sets. You can do things like cluster sets, right? And you can get a lot of stuff crammed into a small amount of work. So I do think that you still have to get close proximity to failure, but it's maybe at some point, there's a point of diminishing return and you just can't do much total work at all if you're going to do that. Now, if you grow like that, that's fine because there are people that do, right? We historical data shows us that.
Right.
So that's fine. But I know for me and for a lot of people I've worked with, those are kind of the outliers. And a lot of people probably fall somewhere in the middle, probably not super high volume, because then you have to train like a complete pussy to do high volume, like high volume, right? Unless you're just a freak and you can recover from anything.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
if you're a
probably
freak, you're
somewhere kind of in the
typically
middle.
going to recover from, I call it the Phil Heath syndrome. And that's not a slam to Phil. I want to be clear on that. It's that I trained alongside him for years. So I know full well that he doesn't, I'm not saying he doesn't train hard, but he doesn't train all out or brutal. I laugh. I tell this story all the time. The only time I've ever heard him really make noise was when I was filming the longevity DVD. My wife was working the camera and she turned it on and I hear this grunting all of a sudden from the corner. I know a thing or two about training, but I built a reputation in the bodybuilding industry for removing skin. If you have too much skin, call me. Remember, skin is overrated. And I notice it's Phil, and I'm like, that's weird. He doesn't usually make noise. I'm like, oh man, he knew the camera came on. So he wasn't gonna be in the back, in behind the scene and be seen.
Yeah.
Two homophones pretty much in the same sentence. I'm pretty sure that's pretty good.
That's
anyway,
funny.
He wasn't going to be seen not exerting that effort. So, that's a magazine shoot. That's an expression. That's an outward display of intensity. So I think a lot of people, here's one thing that comes back to my brain that has stuck with me in a weird way. I remember hearing a study, and I'm not typically a big studies guy. I'm not anti-study.
I think most training hypertrophy studies blow.
Yeah, they're very
for the
difficult.
most part. That's just my take, but go ahead.
A lot of variables that I'm like, how could you control these variables?
Hard to control, but
this one I think is important, and it kind of stuck with me. It noted that, and I think everybody's heard this, that if you use steroids, if you use testosterone or anabolic steroids, but you don't train, they showed that there was an increase in muscle mass. So that really stuck with me. I'm like, if that's the case, then maybe this absolute brutal beyond the recoverability type thing, or stepping up to that line to train, maybe that's not the threshold we should be going after. Maybe there's a happy medium in there somewhere. And it's difficult because that brain, my brain is hardwired after so many years, and coming from that, not just the DC is very, very low volume. So if you're going to increase intensity and you're going to put those demands and stresses on your system, okay, cool, in a sense, because it's not a high volume type of situation, but moderate volume, moderate frequency once a week. I have found, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, I come back the next week and I'm not full. I don't think I'm fully recovered, but if I blow off my diet and blow off training for 3 or 4 days, or I take a vacation for a week and I don't train, it doesn't usually happen, but it happens sometimes. If I'm going to be in Jamaica with my wife, I'm probably not going to train. And then I come back and I'm stronger.
Right.
Oh, there has to be something to this.
Yeah. And that's really kind of the indicator is, are you progressing from an overload standpoint, but are you progressing while still maintaining similar speed of the rep and similar form? Like you can will yourself to like add a 2.5 to the,
Sure.
What I did after I compete, and maybe this is something similar to what you're kind of speaking on, is usually after I compete, you're weaker. So like, this is a great opportunity for me to make sure that I'm not getting really greedy with my form, and I'm like executing everything as well as I can. And I'm not talking about the dudes that have like 3 different cuffs strapped to their arms, like doing this shit. Right. We're not talking about that. I'm just talking about, I'm getting a good stretch. I'm contracting, I'm feeling everything on the reps. It's always a good reset. And then can I just maintain that as I progress week to week to week? Because when you play this, like, I always want to beat the logbook, you're going to beat it. Yeah. You're going to beat it.
Everybody finds a way, don't they? Yeah.
Right. Like you should be able to, but can you beat it? Like, if I looked, here's an example, and I don't, you can do this if you want, but if I looked at a set of hack squats 8 weeks ago and I've added 40 pounds to it, do my reps now look the same as they did then? And the answer is yes. You're going to add muscle. Mm-hmm. That's the thing.
Sure.
But most of the time they don't, because most of the time what's happening is you're moving your feet differently. Your hips are shifting differently. Like, your tempo is you're dropping it out of the sky. At like
they're a little quicker.
Speed, no eccentric control. And then I would go a step further and I would say, even within the set itself, if you're doing a set of 12 reps, something that's maybe a little higher, don't rush. Mm-hmm. Don't rush it to rep, because the first 8 are not that difficult. Don't rush them. Everything, it's like a cylinder, right? It's like a piston. Mm-hmm. Like, if you can do work like that, that's what's been the biggest thing for me, is it tears me up. Like, it's not even the sets. They're not light by any means. I'm still overloading and pushing myself. It's just getting a lot better stretch in the movements, getting a lot better contractions. And then I can train those muscle groups that are weaker several times per week, right? The better.
What do you mean by several? 2, 3?
2 or 3.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And that's another, there's been the whole frequency debate. That's been a big thing too.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think what we've kind of determined is that it doesn't matter that much, except for if I try to do 20 sets of one muscle group in a single session, the last 10 sets are probably going to be kind of lousy.
Mm-hmm.
If I split it up into 2 chunks, you're probably going to perform better within those sessions. So I as I work with more advanced people, most of the time it will be, if it's a good muscle group and you're not trying to grow it or maintain it, we'll train it at maintenance. Doesn't take a lot. The rest of your recovery ability is going towards the stuff that sucks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If it's
It's
your
kinda like that
biceps or your
glass.
triceps.
You can only fill that glass so far. And then
Right.
after that, there's just a point of no
So
return.
instead of having like everything here and then just adding on top of it, you may actually have to pull back on something else
Right.
that doesn't require much to add to the other things, right?
Let me go back to go ahead, Dr. Marv, because you haven't said anything. Go ahead. I have been talking crazy.
Yeah. I think it takes way more self-control to do progressive overload the correct way, which Austin's talking about. Like, you have to be so far more advanced to have those robot reps that Ron Partlow talks about, where you're not just moving the weight, but are you flexing the muscle, right? Because everybody could do a hack where you're just moving the weight, and then you do a hack when you're mimicking the action of a leg extension where you're like really firing the quad. Like, that's a totally different experience. So I think it's way harder, and it takes way more experience and years of doing it to be able to do that. My question to you, Austin, is at what point in somebody's training career do you go, okay, it's appropriate for us to start looking at lagging body parts versus you just got to get everything to start growing to see where you're genetically gifted at? Because I think too many people are trying to specialize body parts with like 2 or 3 years of training. And I'm like, no. Me personally, I go train at least 5 years and just learn how to train, learn how to eat, learn how to progressively overload with working the target muscle, right? So execution. So for me, it's, execution, intensity, load is the last thing I care about. Spend 5 years doing that, see where your genetic strong points are, and then maybe start breaking it up. That's what I do. How do you approach that equation?
Yeah, I think that's good, because I think what most people assume is that their genetic strong, like if you took an untrained person and just put them in bodybuilding poses, you could see, okay, well, they have some quads already. So you would assume that's a strong body part, but maybe something else actually responds really quick when they start training, even though it looks like shit at first. So you don't really know what's good at the beginning might not necessarily be good 3 years later, because you're throwing stimulus at it. It's like gear. Just because someone's tiny doesn't mean that they won't respond really, really well. And just because someone's already kind of bigger doesn't necessarily mean that they'll respond super well either. I mean, generally they do, but we've seen people that are 140 pounds that end up being 300 plus pounds.
Right.
That's a response.
Crazy.
Like, you wouldn't know that, right? You would never know that. And the same thing goes with training. Is there's just things you wouldn't know until you do it. And you're not going to learn that in 2 or 3 years. I would argue that you can't even, you can hardly learn how to do those kinds of reps that we're talking about in 2 years. Because at that point, you're having fun. You're just in there like wanting to do better than you did last week. And that's probably all you really should do for the most part. You should find, if I'm working with someone that's younger, like I have younger guys, is I try to teach them about what recovery is like how to progress session to session, and what recovery should feel like, and the importance of sleeping and, and all this other stuff that you don't care about when you're 20 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I think that there's so many other things. What people are doing is they're jumping over dollars to pick up pennies, as the saying goes. They're worried about how they're cuffing their lateral raise. And I'm like, you don't have any delts, bro. There's no delt to it.
Yes.
So I totally agree with you. I'm definitely not in the camp of like, you should only do barbells for the first 3 years. I don't know that that's necessary, but at the same time, you've got to get in there and fire up that nervous system and actually learn how to train the muscles.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said of the free weight component early
Sure.
on because of the stabilizing effect and the stabilizing muscles and the coordination
Yep.
involved to do proper squats and proper bent over rows and things of that nature. And then moving in, I think people tend to go to machines too quickly. I think they have a hard time. And if you don't have the coordination component, then you have to wonder if it's not an isolateral move, if they're going to be favoring, kind of a 60-40 left to right type thing on a hack squat, a chest press or anything else. I want to go back real quick, if it's okay, to the, because you make a point that people don't make, and I like it. And that's the rep tempo or the rep speed slowing down. There have been times where I have gone into, say, a set of hack squats, and by the third one, I'm like, I'm literally going to get 5. And then it takes what feels like another 72 hours to finish the set.
You can do it.
I'm like you want to fail. You're like, please, God, let this be the last rep. And you're like, oh, crap, I can get another one. They're just so ridiculously slow. Now, what I have found over time is there is a connection between where I am progressing and where my fatigue levels are, where my CNS is. So I'm almost, when that happens, I know that I'm either in or headed toward that line of putting my toe over the line of, I'm just going to have to pull back here. And not even necessarily from a heavy weight. It's just not that ability to explode, even on, I don't want to say warm-up sets, but the lighter sets. Everything is consistently moving slower. I think that's a great point that I don't think I've heard anybody mention.
It's like and I think you hear about people with genetically having different fiber types and that stuff. And I don't really think I think it's attributed more to what you're talking about, is like, what kind of state is your nervous system in at the time. So I think the best way I would explain this is that, and if you guys listening want to practice it, is you should feel the target muscle, and you should know which muscles, if it's a multi-joint movement. So we can use a hack squat because the hip joint and the knee joint move, right? But your back is stable, so that helps a little bit. But you should kind of know, well, what am I trying to target? Is this just an overall thigh, or is this like a quad focus thing? Maybe it doesn't matter to be that specific, but when you do it, you should actually have your feet in a place that targets that, not just what feels strongest, right? Like, you're like, well, it feels way stronger if I put my feet all the way at the top of the platform and spread them out. I'm like, well, no shit, it does. But that's not targeting the muscle that you want to target, at least not that much. So we got to put the ego aside on that one, right? And start there and look at your reps. They need to be the same speed the whole time. You're going to slow down on the last 1 to 2 reps, and that's fine. And then stop. But your goal with that, and when I have people that come out and train, what I tell them is, when they start to fail at the end, I notice that their mechanics will start to shift. Their body's like, get me the fuck out of this. This hurts. And I'm like, stay on the muscle, stay on the muscle, stay on. I'm like, do not move. Like, I want that piston, because the quads are just screaming, dude. So that you're like, hamstrings are like, we're going to help.
We're coming to help.
And I'm like, stay on the quads. Do not come off the quads, right? Do not lose that depth, whatever part that they're starting to slack on. And I was talking to, I think it was Scott Stevenson about this too. And he's like, well, it's a skill, but it's also like, it's a will thing, like, because everything in your body wants to shift you mechanically somewhere else to make it easier to assist you, right? But if you can just focus on staying on that target muscle the whole time, you might not be able to do as many reps or weight or whatever. I'm going to tell you what, you'll get so much out of that set though. It will just tear your quads to shreds. You do a few sets like that with good tempo. And when I say, as they're starting to slow down, don't let them push as hard as you can,
right?
But stay on the muscle. If you can do that, if you videoed yourself and over like 6 weeks and watched it, I guarantee you'd get 50% more out of those sets than probably otherwise.
Well, I think it's important for the listeners to know this too. I don't think you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not saying do them as fast as possible.
And not as slow as possible. Like, just a reasonable, like, we're going up.
There's just a controlled tempo. First rep looks like the last rep. Maybe not the last, but nonetheless, the mechanics should always look that way. But
Right.
yeah, they're going to slow down a little bit. And I just wonder, Dr. Marv, is there anything, what is there? Is it a slowing of
So what's happening is this is Borge Fagerly's model of effective reps, where he came up with the theory that makes sense to me is as you get to about 5 reps of true failure, the concentric will involuntarily slow down.
Performance chiropractic and sports medicine in the Houston Bay Area, telemedicine and nutrition coaching all over Texas. And if you're not in Texas, don't worry. You still do consults through the educatedmeathead.com, where you also find workout programs, seminar recordings, and online courses.
So not you slowing it down. You're still trying to be the same progressive speed, right? Not like Dorian Yates explosive, where he's famous for, he was literally moving the leg extension machine across the gym floor because he was that explosive.
Yeah.
Don't do that, but control, but still do it with intent. And then as mechanical tension's kicking up, you're getting those larger motor units, right? Because you go from small units to large units. It's a graded, right? Otherwise, we would learn through ATP and energy, right? We're designed to be efficient human beings. We walked our prey to death back in the day. I know that's morbid, but we literally walked animals to death because we don't have claws and we have shit teeth. Right. So we're designed to be efficient. So you've got to provide a high mechanical tension, both in the muscle, without the muscle. There's different types of mechanical tension. And then that's when you start to slow down, or you start getting a little ratchetiness. And with my folks who are supposed to be training to or near failure, if they send me footage, I go, why did you stop the set? The positive was the same exact speed. The last rep is the first one. I want a little. It doesn't, again, you still got to be on the working muscle. One thing that helped me was trying to take my weight that I would do a 20 rep set of hacks, try and get it to fail at like 12 to 15, meaning I'm now really getting on the quad and staying on the quad versus just moving the sled by any means necessary.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, knees quit hurting as bad, right? Oh, magic.
Well, we didn't even get into that.
Yeah.
Correct.
No
Yep.
Yeah,
And
so there's a whole
tendons like slow load. Now, people are going to claim the negative doesn't build any muscle, only the positive does. I have a big problem with that. I know that's what studies say, but like Austin said, studies on working out's typically trash. What is it, like 87% of the top 20 most cited sports performance lifting studies have statistical errors in them. Like, it is a cesspool of misinformation and people latch onto it. I will argue till I'm blue in the face. I will always prefer, you don't have to be me. So Austin, I use a metronome in the gym. I'm a little
I bust his
psychotic with
balls
that.
for it all the
Yep.
time.
Mhm. So I like that because during my Widowmaker days, like, I love the anxiety the day before leg day. We all did it. Guess what? Everybody who's transitioned to RIR and who's doing well, we all did DC. We all pushed too far. So we know, but
You can gauge it.
Yeah.
yes, but I'm still, and I'm curious about what you guys think. I still want a very controlled negative to, 1, help joints, 2, keep the focus on the target muscle so you're not just dive bombing, and 3, if I ever get somebody who never has done a controlled negative and they do controlled negatives, they get bigger. Like, you're stronger in the negative by 25%. It's creating more mechanical damage. Like, this
and a lot of that.
Yeah.
I think it just has to, and I think it has to do with a lot of what you said there, is that you can actually stay on the target muscle.
Yes.
You're not like diving and then trying to find the tension somewhere as you're
We're
like
not power lifters.
out of the hole.
We're not power lifters. We're bodybuilders.
So don't just go as slow as you need to stay on the target muscle. Like, there you go. Whatever that is.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Because most people can't just let go and go limp and maintain tension. Then they come out and they're basically, and if it's, again, I don't know why we got on a hack squat, but we did. But if you're bouncing out of the hole, then you're finding tension, once you get 2 or 3 inches into that concentric, you're like, there's my quads. It's like, that is just it's not an efficient way to train.
Yet Tom Platz has huge legs, and I see that guy bounce in that bottom position. Maybe not necessarily with the heavier, bigger numbers, but when he was doing those 50 rep sets, I'm like, bro,
it's all metabolite stuff, though, right?
It was impressive. But he can get away with that, and then the rest of us are watching it going, well, that's what I got to do. I mean, I was only a teenager when that happened, so late teen. So I'm thinking, wow, those are some pretty crappy reps, but they apparently work. Let me go back, Dr. Marv. I'm going to be the guy, I'm pretty transparent. I put myself out there. If I don't know something, I'm going to be the first to admit it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a question to both of you, when did the studies change? Because apparently I'm behind the times here to where now studies show that the positive is all of the hypertrophy and not the negative. Okay. Last time I checked, been around a few years.
Yep.
It was so negative that people are talking, or so much about the negatives that people are talking, well, I'm just going to do negatives train. I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's a great idea. But yet that's where we were going, because everything was then saying the negatives are really what matters here. So when did this change? I'm not even aware of this.
This is the last couple of years, right, Austin?
Yeah, there was I can't remember who came out with that study.
Here, let me look.
And then again, people kind of ran with it, and I think that there was this idea that the negative wasn't as effective, and it also caused more damage. So it's like, well, we shouldn't focus on the negative because it's not giving you much return. Right.
Okay.
But I think to the point that we made, I would argue that the negative is important in the sense that you still have to be able to control the movement. That's all that I'm talking about when I'm talking tempo. So I think when I say tempo, people think I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like, yeah. I'm not like, it's not like that.
Right.
Right. The other thing is, Dr. Marv, you mentioned like your joints like it. That's another thing too, is joint integrity. And beyond that, when people that aren't very seasoned, they won't get this as much, but when you get really, really experienced, you get pretty strong relevant to yourself. There's got to be a way that we can train and overload. Like it can't just be ballistic, right? Because and that's another reason that a lot of people end up switching to more stabilized movements, and they get into the machines a little bit more and stuff, because I used to love to do RDLs. Why? Because my hamstrings are big and I was good at them. Like it's super cool to be able to pull, go up and down with like 5-6 plates and do an RDL. Like that's badass. But I needed my glutes to grow, and they didn't grow at all. 0. Right. Yeah. Because again, that's where mechanically that strong muscle group was kind of taking over. My erectors also did not grow, and I couldn't conventional deadlift because it always turned into an RDL.
Oh, so okay.
Like I could, but they just didn't do me a lot of good. Right. So I think as you were asking about when you should maybe start prioritizing things, that is maybe a time to consider, well, man, my mechanics, I can't perform multi-joint movements and target everything I want because I have these muscle groups that are so overpowering. Mm-hmm. Right? Like if you do a deadlift, you'll see people deadlift 14 different ways, a conventional deadlift, and that's all based on how long their arms and legs are, first off.
Sure, structure.
But also a lot of it's based on which muscles in that chain are strong. And then that's how they'll set up in the movement. Right? Mm-hmm. If it's powerlifting, that's fine. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
But for bodybuilding, if you want to prioritize a muscle that's weak, you have to be able to like at least isolate it to some extent. It's like if your chest sucks and you can't feel your chest, then you're not going to grow your chest.
Well, and that's a good point there. I wanted to touch on this earlier. Phil Heath is another good example of when he turned pro, everybody was like, or when he was getting ready to turn pro, and as he turned pro, he's not going to be very good because his back is weak. I don't think he was genetically weak in his back. I think the back musculature is so complex, and he was so, I hate to say ignorant because it sounds dumb, but uneducated on how to train the back. I've said, and I'll continue to say, 90% of people who train back don't train it optimally, even if they have a good back, because I have a good back typically because it's just, they're genetically predisposed to have a good back. Yeah.
They're like, you got to do deadlifts.
It's just it's so complex. And I think that that's a good situation as an example, because I think as he learned how, in the more years he got into, because remember, he catapulted from nothing. I mean, I'm thinking of people like, Keone and guys who have these incredible physiques that have not been around very long. And it's just like, damn, they probably still have a lot more to learn, because I take myself back to that age and I'm like, I didn't know shit. Now they probably know more than I did because they have more access to more information these days. Point is even with the greater access, we go back to the giant sea of turds. You have all this information, but which information is correct? So there's a lot to pick out there.
I had a guy that one of my clients, he at the time, he open pro bodybuilder, and he came, 300-pound off season, just huge, right? Came out and trained, and we did some back and arms and stuff, and just a few little things. And I will say, I am not like the super duper mechanics expert. I know plenty, but there are definitely people that are more intricate than me. But just my point in saying this is, we changed a few things. We kind of talked about, keeping the tension on the target muscle, so on and so forth. That session blew him out of, just destroyed him.
Nice.
And it was probably less volume than he was used to doing. And it wasn't because I made him do, people think destroyed. They're like, would you do 6 drop sets? Like, no,
right.
We didn't. In fact,
stayed on the target muscle the whole time for the first time ever.
I was like, in fact, he couldn't do any drop sets.
yeah, he didn't want to. Yeah.
That's so. I guess the point to your point is that, as scary as it is, there's probably some people out there that are really good that have not even gotten close to tapping into all these little cues when they're training.
Well, remember, Keon has said he never trained his hamstrings directly till he made the Olympia stage. And his greatest quad exercise of all time is leg extensions. Tell me you're an alien. Tell me you're a genetic freak alien without telling me you're a genetic freak alien with those two statements. Yeah. And not taking away, he probably has the single greatest structure in the history of the sport, right? Yeah. He's up there. He's top 3, if not ever. And it's like, F you, because that's incredible, right?
Sure.
Good.
Well, even as a teenager, you've seen the pictures. It's just insane.
But remember, Ben Pakulski. I mean, you talk about training smarts. That guy was as analytical and scientific as you could be, and he was never able to bring his back up to where it needed to be, right? And he did all the stuff, right?
Yep.
It's hard, and he's crazy smart, uber smart.
Yep. And genetic limitations will always be there, and that's just So, and that's another cop out. It's not a cop out. It's a real thing, but it's a cop out when people say, they'll be like, "Well, you don't know what you're talking about because your such and such muscle group is not good." I'm like, dude, it don't matter what I do. Such and such muscle group's never going to be good.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd rather see the progression of someone from the beginning to the end. That's more important to me than what the actual end product is. And I think
so Austin
representative
is the best example, though.
Very good.
Austin,
very good
funny.
example.
Sorry, man, you are incredible.
It's funny because most people aren't, and this is not tooting my horn, but I think most people that talk about a lot of this stuff online, you actually don't have that historical data. If you look, it's just not there. You're like, well, based on what?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that's not everyone. There's plenty of people that have been around, that have progressed their physiques and stuff. But I'm like, take someone with mediocre genetics. I mean, not such terrible that nothing will work, but
right.
Because we have those.
Yeah, right. Mediocre genetics. Let's see 15, 20 years. Let's see the progression. And then, I will believe what you say.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I firmly believe it's 10 years. You got to give it 10 years to really make, even the craziest growth rate of Nick Walker took him 10 years to put on 100 pounds. And everybody wants it in 6 months.
Well, I kind of do too. I mean, I'm not going to fault anybody for that.
Let me know if you figure it out.
Yeah.
As much as I would love to continue, I mean, we could talk 3 hours on training, and that's really what we do here. But I do want to I want to segue a little bit into the area that we don't usually talk about, because we don't even usually talk about nutrition, let alone the gut health. So I want to get in there as much as we can with the time that we have, and get your thoughts on, and I don't want to use the incorrect label, so you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm behind the curve on this. I even, in speaking with Jason, we've had Jason on, and, I kind of challenged him with this idea, because this has been in my brain for a long time. So I'm going to ask the same question to you, but before we go down this path, but I have really struggled with, and not in justifying, it could sound like that, and I understand that, with the question of, are we as trainers getting out of is it in our scope of practice? Are we kind of teetering on that edge of giving medical advice? And at the same time, I concede that we also arguably give medical advice when we advise on gear. So there is that. I'm not going to, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite here, but I do want to know, are we kind of putting our toe up to that line, even though it's beneficial? And here's what concerns me. You, Jason, people who are knowledgeable in this area, and it's in their wheelhouse, they've done their due diligence, they're experienced, there's knowledge there, they've got people backing them. Okay. But we know how this goes. The giant sea of turds all of a sudden is going to be a gut biome expert, and they're going to be handing out all this goddamn information, just like they're giving out shitty training and nutrition advice. So what say you?
Man, that's a great question. And the second part of that, I'm not avoiding the first part, but the second part of that's absolutely correct. And I don't know if you follow me, I passive aggressively rant all the time about shit.
I'm right there with you. I can relate.
Because I'm not like calling people out necessarily. It's just concepts and trends as a whole. And I hope that, like anything else, like people don't ruin things for the rest of us. Type of thing, right? But what I'll say to that question is, you never diagnose anyone with anything. So I think the verbiage is important. And here's the other thing about verbiage. Here's the other thing about verbiage that I've really learned is super important, is that even if I have these like test results in front of me, which by the way, are variable, context matters a lot, right? Like I can have 5 different people with the same result. And this is why like Chat GPT and all this like plug and play protocol bullshit, it's not a 1 + 1 = 2 thing. I can have 5 people with the same exact results and have 5 different solutions because they're different people, right? And their lives are different. But regardless, I think when we're talking about like the labeling thing, for whatever reason, this space, I mean, we know we attract a lot of like hypochondriacs and a lot of neurotic people, but now everyone wants a damn label. Like they come to me and they're like, well, what is this? Is this SIBO or Candida? Like, I was like, listen, if I tell you that it's this, you're going to run with that. And now we've got this whole like victim thing going on and, all this other shit. So that's like a different part of the labeling, but I'm actually hesitant to ever label anything. Yeah. Because
legally, you're not allowed to.
I think psychologically, it just fucks with people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good point.
I just don't do it. The way that I look at things is like this. We're not diagnosing diseases. We're actually looking at systems. The reason that we're different than Western medicine as a whole is when you go to a doctor and you say, I've been pooping my pants for the last 6 months. I can't make it to the bathroom. Your PCP, they might give you some basic suggestions, but if not, they're going to refer you to a gastro doc, right? Now, if you have low testosterone, they might help you, or they'll refer you to an endocrinologist, right? They're all these separate things. When we know that a lot of this stuff is working in conjunction with each other, they're not isolated issues. We know this about the gut. We know like sometimes some of these secondary things that we see on like our skin and our cognitive function, they can come from the gut issues. So I'm more focusing on, and the way I talk to people is about the systems. It's like, well, what's the root cause of this problem? And guess what? The root cause for most people is 2 things. It's stress and they're nuts most of the time. That's a main driver. 2 is, as bodybuilders, we eat mostly unprocessed foods. We have our fun stuff here and there. Like that's probably not going to be the thing that hurts you. But we don't have a lot of variety. Right. So we know we lack some of that microbial diversity, because it's like, dude, if you eat chicken, rice, and beef only for 10 years, you're not feeding a wide array of microbes. So we've kind of seen what happened is people started eating fruit in recent years. They're like, ooh, we can eat a little bit of this, or we can have some vegetables. That was never a thing before. People never did that. So, I mean, we're getting somewhere, right? But, but I think that I like to look at it as a true root cause coaching, because that term gets thrown around, but it's not really what happens is it's just Western medicine with over-the-counter supplements. It's the same thing. And that's fine if like protocols and doing, that stuff's fine. But I think for the most part is we just really have to figure out, why does this person have the issue? How many steps do we need to trace back to find where that's caused? And let's start with whatever that habit is and fix that. And guess what? Sometimes it's psychological and I can't fix that.
Yeah.
Right. I can give some words of advice. I only have my own life experiences. You guys have yours. You'd have something to say. Like you've had talks with clients before, I'm sure, and about maybe something they struggle with. It was relatable, so you're able to tell them something, right? We still have limitations.
Yeah.
I'm not a therapist. I mean, you think you are sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes an underpaid therapist, overpaid.
So I think that yes, I do a lot of some more specialized stuff, but that's also a lot of that's also because I'm getting like the stuff that no one else has been able to help, and that's like a small percentage. I think what most of us are dealing with is not that complex.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and I wonder this popped up again after we spoke with Jason too, and it occurred to me after the show. I'm like, who do I go to see in Western medicine as far as what specialist am I going to go see if I think that I'm having gut issues? Is it a GI doctor? And if I do that, because that's the first one that comes to mind, I have to wonder what that advice or what those recommendations are going to be, because it's probably not going to be anywhere near the microbiome type situation. It could be, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is it's going to be a medication, because that's what we do in Western medicine is we medicate that. We prescribe a pharmaceutical drug to be able to control this.
Like, Austin, do you see this? I have patients, they've been on PPIs for 6-7 years, and I'm like, you're supposed to be on that.
Years.
Yeah, you're supposed to be on that for like a couple months maximum.
Yeah.
And that creates a whole host of psychiatric issues too. That's well documented.
What we see is a kind of chain of events of, we mask something that creates, and we know this about Western medicine, it creates something else. So then you give it something else for that, and then blah, blah, blah. So they end up, common ones that I would see would be PPIs, obviously super common. Another one is psych meds.
Thank you. That's where I was going to go.
SSRIs.
That's a shit show.
Serotonin reuptake inhibitors, especially SSRIs commonly, because a lot of that serotonin is produced in the GI tract to an extent. So, we see stuff like that. But the other thing that I've really found to be true is that if I give you an example. I have two people with the same, metrics as far as if I did like a stool test or something, or they got a stool test done, they look exactly the same. The person that is actually in the bodybuilding-esque crowd is often harder to help than the other person, because the other person that knows nothing and is less neurotic is much more open to things. Yeah. I get it. And it's like our best attribute is often our worst enemy in a lot of these things. It's like, and I get it. And it's actually very relatable, like it's extremely relatable, which is probably why I'm able to help people. But I do think that we discount how much our psyche drives a lot of issues, whether it be gut or hormones or something else. It's like, man, you will have a really difficult time fixing some of these things if we can't get our mind in the right place.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what else we do.
So let me ask you this. I want to see if there's a connection, and I'm watching the time to be respectful of you guys' time. Fine. I want to know if you are seeing any type of relationship between the GLPs, specifically retatrutide, and distension from a bodybuilding standpoint. And the reason I ask that is because it has gotten, I think, brutal for me this last year. There are a lot of variables. There's the higher food volume for whole food sources versus, what I have done in the past. There are things that are different. But to the point of just 4 to 5 days out of the week on my cycle of high carb day versus, the regular days, I'm not even going to go to the pool. This is during a prep. I mean, I have a day or two where I'm like, okay, I look pretty freaking good right now. So that has played into, now, obviously, variables, age. I mean, we know a lot of the guys from the 80s who've been banging and clanging for a long time, the force feeding of the 90s, I call it the rubber band effect of the, intestines and everything else. You can only stretch them so many times and they're probably not going to be as elastic, much like skin as you get older too, things like that. But I can't help but, well, let's just say this. I can't say that Reddit is causative. What I can say is it is definitely correlated because I've been using it since November and I didn't really notice it until I started to get really, really lean. Like I saw no real signs of it. And then as I got leaner and those high carb days went up, they're clean. It wasn't like a skip load or anything, but I even argued, I wonder if skip loading might not be better because there's more calories in a smaller amount of food
volume.
versus the higher volume that you're just shoveling in. So have you seen this relationship or not necessarily?
Yeah. It's interesting because the GLPs, now we've progressed into these triple agonists and we kind of started with the semaglutide and then the trizepatide and we're in the retatrutide, we're moving our way up.
Right.
I know now they're trying to come out with, if they haven't already, some that have like IGF and myostatin properties to them. So, to help with muscle retention, but
Lily's all over that. That's their fourth mimetic. I was like, oh, we're one step ahead of you, pal.
Yeah, they're going.
Yeah.
But we know that they slow gastric motility, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the reason that you're not hungry or less hungry. It slows down motility. I think what most people notice is even if they do get hungry, they just get full quicker. Yeah. Right. It's like you might have the psychological hunger cue that's there, but then when you start eating, you're like, man, I got full quick. Mm-hmm. Right. Even if it tastes good and even if it's palatable, you're like, man, I'm good.
Yeah. I don't care.
And that's part of how they work. Now, so yes, they absolutely can, in that regard, slow down motility. It's dose dependent. I think what's interesting is they also seem to have some pretty pronounced anti-inflammatory effects and stuff as well. So that could actually be good.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, why am I not getting this?
Well, that's the thing is it is a little bit of a double-edged sword with those. We're seeing a lot of positives, reductions in inflammation. We're seeing like a lot of the metabolic syndrome type stuff that people in the bodybuilding space, triglycerides, lipid profile, A1Cs, like all these things are improving, which is really good. If we can keep it at a dose where we're getting most of the benefits and none of the, or at least very little of the side effects. If you already have GI issues, if you already have like low stomach acid or you already have, slow motility for whatever reason, it's risky.
I think that's the issue. I think that what it did with me is it exacerbated a pre-existing. So I'm trying to go back and look at it more at the lower level instead of going straight to Retta. It's like, I could eliminate. And I did. I titrated the dose down. Whether it helped or not, I don't know, because it was there. It was a changing variable. But there may be some underlying issues in there from a biome standpoint, too. I mean, obviously the other variables there, I won't deny those, from the age to the force feeding, over the years. I mean, that's a lot of years to force feed. So what I have noticed, though, and this is the odd thing, is it's 12 weeks later, 11 weeks, something like that. Weight is up. I'm roughly high 220s, but my waist is only up like, I don't know, an inch. So now I'm looking at it, and I don't have, obviously, I don't need the high carb day, as high a carb days and the high volume that I was doing before. But it clearly is related in some way to those higher volumes of I think, higher volumes of food. Could it be the types of foods that I was eating? No, because I'm eating the same types of foods. I mean, I laugh that my pre-workout meal is essentially what my pre-workout meal was when I was prepping, walnut oil, rice, and chicken breast. And I love that meal. You would think that you'd want to get so far away from it because you were eating it 6 times a day that it's just not there. But it plays into everything from loading for not loading, but filling out for the show the last couple weeks. I mean, you try to push higher levels of it, and it just gets worse. And it's just, I ended up carrying it to the stage. And that was really, I don't expect to go out there at 55 and whip everybody's ass and get a pro card. But I did want to be more competitive than I was and have a better package to be able to cross what I consider crossing the finish line and walking away. So now I feel like I need to come back and I need to do it again, and I need to tweak those things. So I'm trying to get those things in order now before, and I'm not asking you for the answers. I mean, you don't know anything about me, so you can't, just throw up this awesome plan. But should I be looking more? Should I be looking closer at let's just say this. I'm your guy. I've only given you this information. What's your first out of the box step? Skip, do this.
So first thing I'm looking at is beyond any outward symptoms of, because you say I have distension after I eat, super broad, right? It could be like
very
things, right?
Very.
First thing I want to know is food composition, as far as like, well, what am I eating? And I don't mean junk. I'm not talking about like on the weekend here and there. Right. I'm talking about what are we eating on a daily basis. One of the main issues we deal with bodybuilders isn't the quality of the food necessarily. It's just that we don't have much feeding the commensal bacteria. So think about this. Here's the kind of I'll paint a picture. Dysbiotic bacteria, opportunistic bacteria, like pathogens, the bad stuff, the yeast, the candida, the streptococcus, staphylococcus, all this stuff that you don't really want in high amounts. They're not picky. They eat anything. They're like a raccoon in your dumpster, right? The commensal bacteria, or the good microbes, are kind of like a toddler in a high chair. They're a little more picky, right?
I love that.
So
yeah, it is pretty good.
I try to explain that to people, and I'm like, and that's also why a lot of the solutions, the temporary solutions that people use to fix their gut, things like low FODMAP, carnivore now, like I'll just take all carbs away, all fiber, so I won't be bloated. And I'm like, okay, but you're not going to feed, you'll get some temporary symptom relief, but you're not going to feed those good microbes. And over time, it'll get worse and worse and worse and worse. And you end up with these, relapse or recurrence of problems. Mm-hmm. So we need things, we need sufficient fiber. We need antioxidants and polyphenols to feed these microbes. We need things like short chain fatty acids and butyrate and stuff. So yeah, fruit's a little easier than vegetables for most people. Like that's an easy place to start low, titrate up, throw some potatoes in. If you're a rice eater once in a while, we'll get a little bit of resistant starch in there. If you can tolerate oats, throw a little bit of those in. The thing is, it doesn't need to be a lot. You just need to do more than what you're currently doing, and you'll be able to escalate the amounts. So I get people that come in, I've eaten nothing but rice and chicken and beef and eggs for 5 years because I can't tolerate anything else. It's a common scenario. So when I'm titrating it up, dude, we literally might start with, they say, I can't eat a banana because I bloat. I said, but you can eat this much of a banana, right?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, okay, cool. 20, 25 grams of fruit once a day. Can you do that? Like, yep, cool. Next week, 2 servings. Next week, 3 servings. And we can kind of work our way up. Now, that's like super rudimentary. Yeah. But as far as diversifying, that's kind of the base. It's not throwing probiotics in. It's not throwing any of that shit in there. Yes, there are separate issues that warrant some of those things. But I think as bodybuilders, we deal with lack of microbial diversity, and we deal with high amounts of inflammation and oxidative stress. What's the most common issue in males? IBD, Crohn's, colitis, diverticulitis. They have loose stools mostly, maybe H. pylori. They have a lot of acid reflux, right? That's why all the PPIs. So those aren't, they're bacterial to a point, but a lot of that shit is just high levels of inflammation and lack of good bacteria. I'd made a post recently about how the body kind of has this built-in self-healing. We have the commensal bacteria can help fight against pathogens. We have things called Paneth cells. They can produce antimicrobial peptides. We have our white blood cells, right? Like our neutrophils and our lymphocytes. They can fight against stuff. That's why I said systems.
Yeah.
Support the systems that fix the problem. That's the base. Because if you do that, your body will kind of fix most of it on its own. The first thing people want to do is they want to start throwing like the antimicrobials and stuff in there at everything, which might be okay for certain cases, but it's just overused.
It's also a guess. It's kind of a shooting in the dark. So there's that. Yeah. It's like, where do I go? Okay, I'll try this one. It's like,
yeah, it's that, or even the people that are getting a little more into the weeds, like they're doing the GI maps and stuff, they'll see like one overgrowth on there and they're like, we got to give them,
and things,
oregano oil and all this shit. I'm like, listen, there's one overgrowth, but they're not doing anything else right. Maybe we should do these other 9 things first. And we'll fix, you'll be all right. So I think that as bodybuilders, that's a lot of what we run into. So yeah, I mean, it's complex, but there are some simple things.
And I don't anticipate fixing it. I don't want to sound short-sighted, but at the same time, I accept I'm a realist. There is the age component. There is that age factor that I'm going to have to play with, but I do want to try to check boxes prior to getting back into a cut phase or into a prep. And I really do feel strongly. The other thing too is I don't have a lot of support at my age, because people will message me after I talked about it the first time or spoke about it the first time, even the issues after the prep. I can't even tell you how many messages I got from 50-year-old, 52-year-old, 55. I need to just accept the fact that, I'm paraphrasing. I need to accept the fact that I'm, this is the age, I'm like, yeah, I'm not to that point yet. If I check off all the boxes and I change the things that I need to change for this upcoming cut phase / prep, and then I have the same response, then I need to sit back and process whether I need to accept my fate. That's cool. But I'm not to that point yet. I haven't exhausted all options. So I'm going to do my due diligence. I'm going to see what I can, come up with, and changing some of the variables that you're talking about. I'm already doing that too. And it's funny you even mention oats, because usually I would eat oats 2 years ago and, using your words, I would want to shit my pants. I mean, we're talking about, I need a bathroom right now.
Reactive, like
exactly. And yet now I eat them and I'm like, my distension's down. Like, this is helping to clean the pipes. Like, something is different this time. And it could be as simple as I ate oats for a long time and my body was like, you know what, we're pretty much done with oats for right now, bro.
The one thing I think is really important to mention too is that digestion, or we'll just use anything in that realm of health as it pertains to bodybuilders, is different than general population, in the sense that if I get a gen pop person that comes in that has a digestive issue, the goal would be fix it, don't break it again. Here's some kind of like sustainable way you can continue to do these things. You're going to break stuff again when you bodybuild. That's just the thing. Yeah. To some extent, I mean, here's the goal. Break it less, right?
Right.
Like, break it less and learn how to fix it quicker and learn how to maybe manage it a little bit better. But I think people have this false reality. This is the people that work GI health that don't work with a lot of bodybuilders. They mostly work with Gen Pop. I'm in an interesting space because I'm a bodybuilder and I do this stuff also for bodybuilders. Not just soccer moms, right?
Right.
Is that the reality is sometimes you got to push, you got to eat a lot of food. And sometimes when you eat a lot of food, that is stressful on your GI tract. Sometimes you got to eat very little food and that's stressful on your body. Like, there's things that you just have to do sometimes. We want to minimize the damage, because we know if we minimize the damage, we look better on show day and we get better results. There's not a lack of, there's so many people, especially in the pro ranks, it's not like a lack of conditioning for a lot of these guys. It's like they're really distended. Mm-hmm. They are really inflamed. They're like, I can't figure out how to peak. I'm like, dude, it's because your body is broke down.
Yeah.
It's not because you're not lean enough.
Yeah.
You had glute striations 10 weeks out.
Yeah. You make a good point though about the, we're forcing, I like to use the word coercion. We're coercing or trying to manipulate, it's semantics, but whatever.
Yeah.
To try to get to this level of muscularity / condition, but yet it's so against what the body wants to do that we are forcing it. I mean, let's just, let's not pull any punches. So we force it, and then we expect that we're not going to have the issues of, the response of that force on everything from our psyche to our digestive tract to everything that holds the muscle to the bone. I mean, you name it. And so I like the way that you're presenting it. It needs to be minimized, but you're not denying the fact that, this is not normal. We have to force these things for the outcome that we're looking for, but try to balance it at the same time.
Peak performance is not health. Those are two opposite ends of the spectrum. And people go, well, you look great naked. You could be a complete shit show inside. Peak performance at the highest levels, no matter what
I
it
look
is.
really good naked.
Even ultra endurance runners are not healthy. Anything taken to an extreme, like some of their blood work is worse than guys on 2.5 grams of gear I've seen, where I'm like,
sure,
I've seen some rough stuff with endurance athletes.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So there's that. I almost got to go, unfortunately, because a patient is here. But real quickly, Austin, do you do IgG food sensitivity testing or MRT IgE? Can you please set the record straight?
I do not.
Thank you. Thank you.
Most of the food sensitivity tests are trying to show some kind of immune reaction. They're not accurate. There's very little efficacy to any types of tests like that. There are tests that you can see things in regards to your GI. It's not those. Those are not the ones. And even then, I'll say this, even if you were to use like a stool test, like some of the ones I use, they're excretory tests. So if it's not coming out, it's not going to show up on there. Like I had a lady contact me today, perfect example. I helped her a few weeks ago with a consult, and she talked about how she had worms coming out.
Oh,
she had parasite. Wow. There was no parasite on her test results at all because it wasn't coming out in her stool. So it wasn't there. Mm-hmm. So like these things aren't perfect. And the tests, like a lot of the tests that we use, it's the same ranges for me and for some 100-pound lady. Like I probably have more total bacteria eating 5,000 calories than some woman eating 1,200. So there's so much context that goes into it. But to answer your question, I never use them at all, ever.
Thank you.
I know that was an important question. Dr. Marv, if you have to dip out, are you okay that I still want to throw the question?
No, you guys keep continuing. This is awesome. Austin, thank you very much, man. This was great. I'll reach out to you on Instagram.
Thank you.
Cool.
We'll see you.
And I won't keep you a long time. Dr. Marv has a real job, is what I call it. My wife has a real job. I have this faux thing that I do that somehow generates revenue. I don't know. Take it easy, Dr. Marv. But I do want to throw some questions at you. First, I want to finish up just with the microphone. And first, I appreciate, you coming out with the information that you're providing. Some of this stuff, a lot of the stuff I'm already doing. I mean, I'm not the brightest star in the sky, but I can deduce and kind of go, okay, this, and we'll change this and not change too many variables at one time so that I can get a good read.
For sure.
On what is working and what isn't versus, well, it's working, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And I think it's a mark of a good coach, good trainer. You've been in this for the long haul, so you're still obviously in that. You're still learning, and sure. I think that as cliche as it sounds, to remain a good trainer and a good coach, you have to continue to to learn and want to learn.
Yep.
You know how this industry goes. A lot of times it ends up being. I always laugh and say it turns from a passion to greed. A lot of times, how many clients can I run? That sort. And then, of course, not only communication, but your clients are kind of left, fledgling and kind of like, oh, what's going on over here? But while the coach is counting money. So I'm never going to have someone like that on the show. Yeah, you
I
also have a
theory
brain
about that. But
I thought you said he had a degree.
No, I said I have a theory about that. I think that you know this better than me because you've actually been around longer than me, but I've been around long enough, is at the beginning, I don't think anyone ever expected to just do this full time.
No,
It was never a thing, right? We can agree
Yeah.
on that.
it
right?
was a side hustle. Yeah.
It's a business now for people,
Mhm.
right? And I think when you have a business, people want to, we use that term scale, right? Like that's the thing is there's a lot of other avenues that you can get into, whether it be supplements or functional health or, whatever. And
Sure.
that's cool. That's commendable. But I think some people have sold their soul to the scaling more than and they've lost a lot of what they originally got them here. I'm not going to go into that too much. That shit drives me nuts, but that's where we're at, man.
Well, we have parallels there because I will see your
That's where
posts
we're at.
sometimes. I follow you, and I don't follow. I seriously don't think I follow 200 people because I just don't give a shit what other people are doing. I'm just being honest.
Yeah,
I don't mean that
agree,
to sound arrogant, but I just don't give a shit.
For sure.
So I do follow you, and I have noticed some of your posts are things that I have, I've said in the past too about the industry, and to the point where I've had to catch myself because I'm like, damn, man, I'm starting to sound really cynical
Sound like old
and
and
negative.
jaded.
Yeah, I use that all the time. I'm just a jaded old man. Now, I'm not saying that those are your posts. I see that similarity though, because I see your frustration. And it's tough because it was back in 2012 when I actually had to pull back from working with competitors because I just told my wife, I'm like, I just hate them. They're the bane of my existence. You can get them into the best condition ever and they take second and you just suck at what you do. But what I was doing was applying this frustrated, jaded blanket statement because that wasn't true. What it was these handful of people every year who would just mentally exhaust me. And then I made that statement as a blanket statement covered. And that's not true. The industry is not full of bad apples.
Mm-mm.
It's that the bad apples just drive you nuts. And you know that they're going out in the world and portraying our industry in a way that the average person or the layman then meets me with my wife at a professional, my wife's work thing and everything. And I don't even want to say that I'm a trainer because I don't want to be lumped in with that. You asked me what I do. I'm a writer. I write because I do. I'm not lying, but I don't want to own it because I don't know what that perception is on the other end because it's not usually good, right?
Fitness coaching.
You're in a small town in Ohio, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Do people know what you do if they don't know you?
Where I live,
don't.
Probably, but that's just because it's small. But I don't. To your point, I'm the same way. It's usually my fiance that speaks up, and I'm like, I think it's partially my personality is my lack of social skills, maybe some autism in there or something. But
I think we all there's a little bit. I think
Probably.
We're all a little bit on that spectrum. Yeah.
But she'll speak up and because she's like, you should be proud of what you do and stuff. And it's not that I'm not, but I do, to your point, there is a degree of that goes on where like everyone's just a damn fitness coach now. So that's why if I'm going to explain it, I like to maybe explain some of the other things that I also do. Right. So it sounds a little more profound.
Yeah, exactly. And I always have that fear of someone walking away going, man, Melissa is her sugar mama or his sugar mama, or you know what I mean? Like I'm not like I'm some kind of trainer at Bally's, and even saying Bally's, I almost caught myself. I mean, I dated myself with that reference because I don't think most people know what Bally's exactly.
I know what it is.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, oh shit. But that's my point. At least for me, it's not necessarily, I'm proud of what I do. I'm proud that I have been able to stay relevant in an industry that would have loved to kick me to the side, years ago. But it's more internal, where when I started, it was external because it was not done and not done successfully by a lot of people. And I liked that, where these days, I mean, let's be fair. Anybody can do it. Whether they do it successfully is a different story. But when you're talking to someone, telling them they don't know whether you're successful at it or not. So it becomes watered down, and that's why I refer to it as giant sea of turds. Now, I'm not trying to make my jaded, cynical side, I don't, hopefully it's not contagious, because I'm not trying to put it on anybody, but it's almost careful. My wife said this, careful what you wish for, because I was like, I want to do anything but this. So when I pulled away more from the competitive side, and, I've got my demographic is, guys like me, they've been banging and clanging for a while, or they got away from it and they're coming back to it. And I'll get messages going, yeah, I worked with you back in, 08, and I've had kids that. And, I've got I'm a cardiac surgeon. What the fuck? I'm just a trainer. Like, what have I been doing for the last 20 years? You know what I mean? So that is awesome, because then you have that demographic where it's relatively low stress working with them. They're glad to work with you. They're happy to work with you. They're appreciative. And the client retention is awesome, because that they have money. They're not 22 years old going, well, let's see, do I pay Skip or do I pay my rent?
and that's something that when you're first starting, you kind of just have to take what you can get.
Oh, no question.
I think a lot of people jump in here and they're like, I want a niche. And I'm like, based on what?
Right.
Like, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just saying, there's really no social proof here yet. You're going to have a hard time niching, but yeah, that's ultimately the goal, right? And you don't really know who that demographic is or what it is until you work with probably all of them. Yep. And eventually you figure it out.
And you don't necessarily find it. It's not like, I use skip loading as an example. I found my niche by accident.
Right.
It wasn't something that I went, hey, I got to set myself apart from everybody else. But I'll tell you this, and I've told this to so many people over the years, even knowing what I know, had I come into the industry 10 years later, I would have had a hard time separating. Because so my point is, there are good trainers out there. I don't deny that. I used to, because I only had a handful of guys that I really thought weren't full of shit. But now that the industry or the, I don't want to say profession, but what we do is so broad, there's a lot of people who are very good at what they do and no one knows about them. Yeah, because they're floating in this giant sea of turds. And that's where I feel bad for the person coming into the industry who doesn't know any better, and they're just looking out at this sea of turds going, like, who do I talk to? Who knows what they're talking about? How do I? It has to be incredibly difficult to do. You stood the test of time.
It's also part of the reason some of the stuff that I talk about openly online, it's part of the reason I do that too. It's also for the consumer. I'm not saying come to me. I'm not saying I'm doing this better. I'm just saying, here's some things that you might want to pay attention to.
Right.
Here are some trends. Here are some things to watch out for. It's also kind of a word of caution. It's not I'm not making a living on like calling people out by name, right? Right. That sounds exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
But definitely to your point is, it would have to be so intimidating. And the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to get caught by whatever marketing catches your eye. Yeah. There was no marketing in fitness 10 years ago or 15 years ago. The only thing that ever happened was there was referrals, which is still, by the way, dominates. Referrals still dominate.
Yep.
They always will. But there was that. And then there was the guys that posted the most on the forums that had the good physiques. Probably you paid attention to them. But now, with it being more of a business, anyone can look like anything if they know how.
Oh, sure. No
Whether
question.
they are or not is a different story.
Yeah.
And so
social media has just changed the game.
It's confusing.
Yeah. And I don't want to, go down that rabbit holes because I could talk about it for 3 hours, but I will say the message boards were good and people missed out who don't have any experience with the message boards because you knew who knew their shit, because those people had to earn the respect of that community. Otherwise, you were just ostracized and blackballed and get the fuck out of here sort of thing. Where these days, if you don't like what someone is saying or they're coming back at you, challenging you, you just remove them from your echo chamber.
You can go to someone else that fits your preconceived bias, right? And that's what an algorithm is, right? It shows you what you want to see. So it's facilitating. It's just facilitating your biases.
Yeah, definitely. There are plenty of people I'd love to get on and challenge, and they aren't going to come anywhere near me, but they would like me to come on their show because then they have control over the editing and everything else. So it's just kind of it's a weird thing. But again, I could go on about that forever. Let me do this. I want to wrap up with this. I love the questions. We call it intimate time. It's just questions about things that are not related to bodybuilding, picking up heavy things, setting them down, chicken and rice, that sort of thing. It's just, oh, I didn't know this about this guy, that sort of thing. Plus, it might be funny. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to put together 10 because I threw away my list from the other day when I screwed up the audio.
Yeah.
So I only got to 6. Number 1, and I want to elaborate or expound on them just a little bit. Number 1, allurophile or cinephile? Basically meaning, for people who don't know their files, because I had to dig into it real good. Astrophile, lover of astrology. Allurophile, lover of cats. Cinephile, lover of dogs. They call it a dogophile too, but that's just way too obvious, so I prefer cinephile.
Wow.
I know you got cats.
That's a rhetorical question, right?
Well, I would think, because I know, but the viewers might not know.
Lover of cats, for sure.
Yeah, that's what I found. Now, how many cats do you have? You're out in the country. You're in rural, very, very rural Ohio. So you have, no kidding. Are they all outside? Oh, just one.
One is inside outside. Now, I had 4, and when my fiance moved in, she had 2.
Okay, now we're getting to the numbers.
No, actually, that's not true. I had 3. And then one showed up at our doorstep, half dead, freezing to death last winter, and he is still in our house.
Oh, no question. You can't deny. Yeah. That cat found you. You didn't find him.
He's still in our house. So there's 6.
That's awesome. Now, look, I thought I was crazy with 5. Good for you. Now, this is all I ask. At some point, now that we've discussed it, I have to see a picture on your Instagram of at least one of your cats. Matter of fact, if I have to ask for the one specific one, the one that you took in that was at the door, right?
Maybe we could just do one of those swipe carousel posts with picture of each of them.
There you go. There you go. That. Number 2, best show or series. No, not best. Let's do this. Series or show on Netflix or Prime that you're watching now, whether it sucks or not. And you can't do this. You can't be like everybody else. I don't have time to watch TV. Okay. Even if you don't have time, you watch 30 minutes. Come on.
Yeah. Right now, not super new, but right now, Ozarks is on.
Oh, you have not seen Ozark until now?
I've seen it.
You watch it again. Damn right. Where do you rank that in your shows of all time?
Yeah, it's a good one. Man, I tell you what, we watched prior to that, which was actually a redo, is the Queen's Gambit.
Awesome. It's a redo?
Yeah, well, we watched it twice.
Oh, I thought you meant it was like it had been redone. Oh, okay.
Meaning we had already seen it.
Yeah, awesome.
But that was a great
show. Watching Black Rabbit now or no?
I have not. I saw the little preview. Is that good?
I'll say this. The first episode is a sleeper. Like, it put me out. I had to watch it again. Like, I literally fell asleep. Of course, I'm 55. I sometimes do fall asleep in my recliner.
I do too,
anyway. But Jason Bateman, if you like Ozark, you'll like it. Good shows typically take a few episodes to break in because of the character depth and everything else. Yep, they have to, that it's a long feat. It is good. We just finished episode 3. Check it out. I'm excited to get back to. We watch about an episode during the week. That's our thing. Number 3, Powerball. You win the Powerball, you win the whatever. What is your daily driver that you don't put in the garage or you don't want to because you want everybody to see it?
Daily. And if I have that money, I guess I don't have to care if it's reliable.
Nope.
Goodness. Daily driver. If a daily driver would actually probably be something very comfortable and luxurious. Like, it probably wouldn't be a sports car. If I was like completely didn't give a shit, I mean, Bentley Rolls.
Yeah.
Maybe like a sweet SUV. Mm-hmm. I think it would probably be something like that. I mean, I would have the sports cars for sure.
I could see in a GLE or, something like that. AMG.
Something that's like ultra comfortable.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And maybe have a driver.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that would be. Now, if you just had to go with dream car, then not practical, say 2-seater, where do you go?
Okay. I'm a big modified car guy.
Okay.
So I don't know that it would be like some kind of exotic, I'm not going to be like Bugatti or something. I mean, I guess if I had that much money, whatever.
I mean, maybe.
Love American cars. I would probably get a low mileage 2016 or 17. I think it's the last year they made them. Viper ACR, send it to Calvo Motorsports in Texas. Do like a 3,000 horsepower twin turbo build.
Good call.
And drive it on the street.
Now, what are you driving now?
So I have, I've got a couple sports cars. I've got a C6 Z06 that makes about 1,000 horsepower that I drive. So nice. It moves.
I was going to say, if we lined up, and I'm not going to ask now, if I lined up my M5, which is modded, but as soon as you said how 1,000 horsepower, I'm like, because I don't know the vet. I don't know those things. Even Mustangs, I can't keep track of what's in them. Typically, it's a 22-year-old who just got it and they want to fuck around with me, and I'm happy to oblige. But every now and then, you get a Shelby that's been modded, and then
you don't know.
It's a fight. It's a fight.
Yeah,
fair enough. Number 4, and this is kind of a setup here because I already know you live in small town, rural Ohio.
Okay.
You don't have any kids. It's like a prerequisite to have at least one bastard child.
I have 2 stepsons.
Okay. All right. Now, have you gotten married yet? You're close to.
We're engaged.
Okay, that's what I figured, but I wasn't sure. Okay, and I have, because I follow you. I do see the.
Yeah, I see.
Let me ask you this: what's the relationship? Do they look at you like this cool motherfucker, or is it like he's going to be a boring stepdad?
I don't think that that's the viewpoint. I think there's a little bit of that, but I'll just say this. I'll just say that walking into someone's life when they're already in their early teen years and getting accepted is a win.
Oh,
and then we've had to grow,
very difficult,
and then grow our relationship from there. I think it's a transitional period in life to walk into. So I was blessed that I was accepted and that I was able to have an opportunity to grow our relationship from there.
That's awesome. So your wife is standing just off, or your fiance is standing just off camera. Good for you.
She's probably listening to that.
I'm teasing. But it would have to be. And I say that I probably sound like I know. I don't know. Been married for 32 years. I've been very, very fortunate because I do look at people, friends, and everything else. I think, man, I wouldn't want to take on anybody else's rotten kids. I don't even like my kids, and they're mine.
Yeah.
So I would. I'm kidding. Anybody who knows me knows that's exactly the opposite. But it would have to be incredibly difficult, though. It is not something I would want to do.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I got 2 more. Dream vacation destination. Money doesn't matter.
Okay. I would probably do something. Nature related. I think.
Okay.
Like, I would probably have some type of maybe private tour through like the depths of Alaska or something like that. Something cool that a lot of people would probably say, something exotic, but I would much rather.
I'd be in Bora Bora. I own it. I would be in Bora, and I live in a tropical climate, but I would still go to, or maybe the Maldives. I don't know. But anyway,
I don't know. That's hard to say. It's difficult to say. Somewhere in South America would be cool. It's Dane. Maybe if I can make it back alive.
Yeah, exactly. And the last question I have for you is the vice. Everybody's got their vices. What is your vice?
Cars.
Okay.
I
was thinking something unhealthy, like I don't know, nicotine.
Not really a drinker. Occasional, other than the occasional nicotine pouch.
Okay, fair enough. And we touched on this earlier. Did you come from a Copenhagen Kodiak background?
Oh, no, that was a joke. That was
okay.
That was just because I live in the country, so it's mostly. You said Copenhagen, and I'm thinking it's mostly just meth out here.
I did have a meth joke, but I'm like, I don't. And this is God's honest truth. I'm like, I don't know if that hits close to home. Because I don't ever want to say something that I think. You know how many times I put my foot in my mouth?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
100%.
It happens on a daily basis. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that, but I appreciate the humor, because unfortunately, much like we're looked at in Florida now, and I'm not a native Floridian. I consider myself a Coloradan more than I do even we're both from Michigan, but we're crazy down. All the stupid shit happens in Florida, and Ohio, unfortunately, it's known as that.
Yeah.
that
Weirdly
drug.
enough.
Yeah. It's it's unfortunate.
Where I live is pretty calm. It's not, I'm about 25 miles from Columbus, and it's rural, mostly farmland, but I've got my gym at home. I've got some land. We're close enough to everything, grocery store is not far. Like we'll put it this way. I can get DoorDash.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm close enough for that.
Yeah.
I can get Instacart to deliver groceries if I want. So
okay, cool.
we're within, I'm not in the hills of West Virginia.
Yeah, you're not. We were at 9,000 feet in Colorado. I was an hour from anything, but I can look down here right now at it's less than 1 block away, the Publix, and they still will deliver my groceries to me.
Yeah,
because I'm that fucking lazy.
I mean,
the conveniences,
urban
living,
deliver too.
Oh man! So is it safe to say you move about as much as I do outside of the gym and cardio?
That is safe to say. Actually, having a family, having kids activities too, it's gotten me out of the house more in the last few years than I've probably been out of the house in 10.
Yeah. And it's something that I miss. I won't go into my situation, but we're basically empty nested. And I'm not kidding when I say my life is boring. If I could do it, start it all over again tomorrow, I would start it over again tomorrow, because it was just a lot of fun. We did a lot of things where we don't do those fun things anymore. So who knows? I may end up in Milwaukee with the kids and dying in the awesome weather of Milwaukee versus the south of Florida. But hey, I appreciate you coming on. We kept you a long time, and I only did that because the conversation was really good. So I appreciate you coming on, talking about your training, talking about the gut stuff, talking about the personal, the personal stuff too, because people do want to know that and it's relatable, as you know. So, sometimes people know they know what you know. They know that you're smart. They know you're good at what you do. But if they see parallels that they attach to that are sometimes personal, they're like, you know what, this is my guy. I've had people tell me that many times over the years. So
just a normal dude.
Yeah, there you go. I appreciate that. Let me ask you this. How can people reach out to you if they have questions, if they want to work with you, or they just want to say, hey, I'm an allurophile as well. These are pictures of my cats.
So easiest place to find me is probably just go to my Instagram, at Austin St and then the number 8. Because if you go to my bio, email address is in there, link tree's in there if you want to find any of my other stuff as far as podcasts and educational materials. So it's kind of a one-stop shop right there. Cool. That's the easiest spot.
We got to get to Gettin. This is Skip, Dr. Marv, though he already split, and Austin Stout splitting. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell. If you didn't like the show, pretend you did. Like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell anyway. It should sound a little something like this. Be sure to use the TrueNutrition.com link in the closing credits to save 10% on not just Team Skip protein, but every supplement they sell. I don't have to ask Dr. Marv how people can reach out to him. They probably already know anyway. If you have too much skin, meaning you say you're 15%, but your fat ass is well over 20%, I'm your guy. TeamSkip.com. You'll find all my contact information and Team Skip merch. You can also follow me on Instagram at Intense Muscle. Keep in mind that this is a team of 3, not 2. Chris is the enigma behind the scenes, and he's responsible for the visuals and graphics. And he also plays a huge role in the creative process. This project would not work without him. So from all, I would say 3 of us, but from all 4 of us today, it's been a business doing pleasure with you. Join us again next week for another episode of Between Two Dumbbells.
Loading Spin.